to the meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee of the 3rd of September. If I could take apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Chair. Apology from Gillian Gillett.
Thank you. Could I ask for any disclosures of interest, please? I'm assuming there's a school report, so.
Yes, by me, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much. I'd like to declare the personal interest and respect of item 4, the annual report of schools audit, because I'm a governor of Killar, I think it is.
Thank you, Paxton.
Rather than Price.
I'm sure there's others. Councillor Leslie Walter.
Yeah.
If we can turn to the minutes of the meeting of the 16th of July, page by page for accuracy, please, before I ask for support to approve them. Page 1, page 2, page 3, and page 4. If they're an accurate reflection of that meeting, can I have some hands up, please, to support it? I've got hands in the room. Yeah. And I've got hands remote as well. Thank you all. The next item on the agenda is the annual report of schools audit 24-25. And if I could welcome Nick to the meeting today in Simon's absence. So welcome, Nick, and if you could take us through this report, assuming that we've read it, so just picking up any salient points that you wish the committee to particularly note, and then I'll open up the meeting for questions for you.
Chair, could I just sorry, I was a bit late joining. Can I declare an interest in this item, please? Agenda 4. I'm a governor of Brunelbridge School. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. Okay,
Okay.
Nick.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everybody. So, yeah, Chair, as you mentioned, it's agenda item number 4, which is the first report that I'm presenting today. It's our annual report of school audits for the year 24-25. And it's covering pages 6 to 17. So this report shows the number of school audits and thematic reviews finalised in 24-25 and any other developments and work undertaken in the area. So if members can turn to page 6 in the reports pack and paragraph 1.4. So in 24-25, we continued with a thematic review approach for primary and special schools, and we covered procurement, and we also did a review of lunchtime duty payments to staff. Happy to report to committee that we successfully completed both planned thematic reviews, and furthermore the team also finalised individual reviews for 4 secondary schools during the year. Moving on to 1.8, as always, once the action plan has been agreed with the head teacher, a copy of the final report is forwarded to the chair, the school's governing body, head of education planning and resources, and the director of education for information. And similarly, in 1.9, in relation to the thematic reviews, all findings and recommendations have been reported directly to senior management within the Education Directorate, and these findings have also been communicated to schools via the various forums available. So section 2.1, so 26 primary schools were included in the thematic review, covering the key risk area of procurement, and all schools were included in the thematic review covering the lunchtime duty payments to staff. So pleasing to note that both thematic reviews undertaken received a substantial assurance rating. 2.4, the 4 secondary schools that were audited in year, 1 was awarded a high level of assurance and the other 3 were awarded a substantial level of assurance. So moving down to section 3, so the thematic review on procurement. So we looked at spend over the £10,000 mark, and that was both individual spend and cumulative spend. And B then shows that there were 11 instances in total, and the issues that we found underneath. 3.2, the thematic review then on the lunchtime duty payments to staff. And this audit examined the payments made to lunchtime supervisors and teachers, and this was for both primary and secondary schools. And again, underneath then in 3.2a is what we found. Moving down to section 4, so the secondary schools, as mentioned, we completed 4 secondary schools, and they can be seen in Appendix 2. There's a total of 59 recommendations made, which represents about 15 per school. And then 4.4 is a table, an analysis really then of where those recommendations fell and in what areas they sort of fell in. And 4.5 just confirms that probably just over half of those recommendations related to procurement, expenditure, income, and bankings and lettings. So over half of those 59 recommendations. Moving down to 4.6 then gives you some information on those recommendations. Section 5, no special schools were audited independently during the year. Section 6, developments and other work. So this is a list really of what we do in conjunction with Education Department and the schools. Section 7, quality measures. So we're always keen to get responses back from the schools on how we've performed and how we've undertaken the audit. And in 7.5, you can see that we issued 6 quality control questionnaires, 4 for the comprehensive schools and 1 each for the thematic reviews. And we received every QCQ back. And 7.7 then just confirms that at least 100% were satisfied with the overall usefulness of the audit. So on to section 8, the conclusion. So 8.2 in total, as you said, you completed 4 individual comprehensive schools and 2 thematic reviews, providing assurance over the key risk areas that we identified. And 8.4 is again the opinion of the Chief Auditor and myself that based on the work undertaken in the year, the financial management systems within the schools subject to our testing continue to provide a generally good level of assurance, based on our reported results, subject to some instances of non-compliance as stated in the main body of the report. Appendix 1 just shows the 26 schools that we covered in the thematic procurement review. Appendix 2 shows the secondary schools audited independently. Section 3 shows the areas that we cover when we look at these audits, and section 4 then is our quality control questionnaire. Thank you, Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Nick. Are there any questions? If you can go to those online first, please. Julie?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nick, for providing us with another thorough report for the year. I do have a number of questions, so perhaps you can bear with me as I work through them. There were only 5 payments in excess of 10,000, plus a further 6 instances of cumulative spend. So 100% check was performed. I'm a bit concerned that 8 out of the 11 items selected for testing had issues. Could you confirm whether consideration was given to extending the sample parameters so that you selected a sample, for example, of over 5,000? And if that wasn't the case this year, could you consider doing that for future years testing? Because in terms of procurement, it does seem that good procurement practices aren't always being followed in schools?
Nick, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Yeah, we look at the £10,000 spend because that is the spend limit that where quotations and contracts should be in place, which is in line with much of our expenditure to testing in the area. But anything under that amount, we would expect, value for money from the schools, and that's been achieved. And we would also expect evidence to be retained by the school. But no, we didn't go under the 10,000 threshold, but certainly something that I'm happy to take away and I can discuss with Simon.
Okay, thank you. My second query is in terms of the ad hoc work. Could you outline the main areas of ad hoc work and whether these pieces of work have contributed to the overall annual opinion?
Yeah, thanks again, Julie. So in relation to schools, the ad hoc work could be anything from direct requests for help, advice and support, from our team in relation to anything financial, really, any procedural advice on procurement, income management and lettings and so on. And when we have any requests from the Education Directorate, this could be a direct request for us to undertake a full audit of a specific school if they feel that they've got any areas of concern that we need to look at. Or they may request our help with any sort of presentations to the schools, for instance, on recently updated schools procurement guide. So there's lots of requests come in from the schools and from education, but it all does feed into our overall opinion. Yes, it just depends what comes in throughout the year.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is around accounting instructions and the regular update. Is Audit involved in the update of accounting instructions? And if so, how do you manage potential conflicts of interest with the audit team potentially going out and auditing their own homework?
Yeah, firstly, we are involved. I mean, the school support team have recently updated the schools procurement guides, and once they're updated and amended, they do get sent through to audit for final sign off. So, that's something that we are quite heavily involved in, and we have regular meetings on that. So yes, we are involved in that.
Thank you. And in terms of Appendix 1, given the findings in respect of procurement, what incentives are there for the schools achieving improvement in this area?
I suppose the incentives are that there's going to be less recommendations, for them to, for them to adhere to, really. But maybe Kelly can give you a little bit more information on this. There's lots of information and courses run for procurement, and I think over the last probably 4 to 5 years we've really beefed that up and made sure that those courses are available for head teachers and for staff. So I suppose, Kelly, I don't know if you can come in here and just give a bit of an update here.
I was just going to say, Kelly, would you like to comment on any of those comments, any question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. As Nick said, we do give a lot of training to our schools on procurement throughout the course of the year. I think we've noted before, obviously it's not a mandatory course. It is voluntary, but we do keep a checklist of who's attended, and we do contact schools if they haven't attended in the last 3 years and recommend that they do come along for a catch-up. So for the procurement side of things, obviously the system that they use at the moment is SIMS, so it's a financial management FMS package under SIMS. We are on the cusp of moving our schools onto a new financial package under Bromcom, and from what I understand, there are tighter controls in that system that would prevent or flag where procurement rules are going to be potentially breached. So it's early days as yet, because like I said, we're only literally on the cusp of moving the schools over on a rolling programme. But hopefully by the time we report next year, we'll be able to give you some better feedback on how that is working. But yes, we do remind schools, as Nick has highlighted in the report, if we pick anything up through any of the audits or any of the thematic reviews, we do put something in our weekly newsletter to schools and advise them, you need to keep on top of this. But yes, as as you say, it is procurement that does tend to be every year when we look at it, isn't it? The point where schools are sort of breaching the rules there.
Okay, thank you. And that is a welcome update. I hope the implementation goes well. And my last question was in terms of Appendix 3. We discussed at previous governance and audit committees the assurance around risk management, and Kelly gave us quite an in-depth explanation of how her and her team manage or help to manage risk within the individual schools. Could you tell me whether any independent verification or validation has been done by the audit team in respect of this Tier 2 management assurance?
Nick, is that for you?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. In short, the answer is no. Again, Kelly probably be able to give you more information on the current risk management procedures that the schools have to adhere to and are involved in. However, at present, we haven't got an independent check of those procedures in place. Again, happy to take it away and possibly speak to Simon on how we can do that. But I know, certainly over the last couple of years, this has come up a number of times, and, Kelly and the team have put some safeguards in place, and I know they have regular meetings and forums and so on to discuss risk management in the schools. But it would be for us to do that independent check, then to come outside of that and see really how we could look at that independently, really. Then, so maybe something I can speak to Simon in for the future.
Thank you. Yeah, because would be nice for us to get assurance that you're able to rely on the Tier 2 assurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Chair. Nick, I noticed that in 3.2, you refer to the lunchtime supervision payment, in some cases to head teachers. Are there any head teachers who are being paid lunchtime? And if so, who is it that decides that who does the lunchtime supervision? Could there be a conflict there?
Thanks, Gordon. I'd have to come away with that query really and get back to you, because I haven't got the full report in front of me. I'd have to look at the detail behind that, because it's never published in the actual report, so I'd have to go back to our findings. But I can certainly come back to you on that one, Gordon. That's fine.
Thank you.
Dave.
Thanks, Chair. Probably good afternoon, Nick and Kelly. Probably a mixture of responses to the. It's purely observational, really, on my part, and it's on three aspects really. One is communications, the other one's trading, and the other one's health and safety. So on the communications one, in regard to paragraph 1.10, seems to be a deficit in the loop of communications about the actual chair of governors actually delivering reports, etc. And I just wondered what the latest update is on addressing that. Thank you.
Is that for you, Kelly?
I can come in quickly, David, if you like, and then maybe Kelly can just jump in after. Yeah, so just to maybe give you the current process, with including the chair of the governor. So basically, once the report's been issued to the head teacher, a separate email goes to the chair of governors with a letter asking them to ensure that the final report is presented in the next governing body meeting, and to ensure all actions have been implemented within the agreed timescales in the management action plan. And we also, as reported, as you said in paragraph 110, we do ask the school support team to request the minutes to confirm that those audit reports have actually been presented and discussed. But just to sort of top and tail that, then at the end, then we do undertake our follow-up processes with the head teacher to confirm that the recommendations have been implemented, and we do require confirmation of this, which is then recorded on our systems. So
okay, thanks, Nick. Just in regard to the aspect of training, obviously it mentions that requests are made for training and people attend training. Is there a record? I think you've answered that to Julie, I think, Kelly, but I presume there's a record of training and there's a follow-up if there's a perceived deficit in training.
Yeah, we do keep a record of schools and which members of the leadership team have undertaken the training, and we do keep an eye as well if there's a new head teacher in the school or even an acting head teacher for a period of time. We do contact the school and see if they want to have any bespoke training. So we might, you know, sort of have a Teams call or pop out to the school just to make sure everyone's aware of it, because particularly for new and acting heads, you know, finance can be a new element for them to look at as well. So we just want to make sure they've got everything at their fingertips. We have also got on Hub, which is the platform that the schools use, we've got a finance section on there. So if anybody ever needs anything, they can look on there, and the accounting instructions on there, the scheme for the finance in the schools, etc. So hopefully they'll be able to find things, or if not, they can always contact myself or Michelle Thomas and the funding information team.
Okay, and I assume a link to training, there is individual staff appraisals going on?
In general, there are performance management appraisals for school staff as well, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the last one was around health and safety. And on Appendix 3, page 16, it mentions about health and safety. And of course, I'm referring to serious incident in Carmarthenshire within the last year, well reported, obviously. And I just wondered, under that category, are we looking at how security and personal safety is addressed both for staff and pupils? And going back to training, do the staff actually get training in control and restraint and breakaway techniques? Thank you.
Yes, all our staff do get training. It's not my area, unfortunately, but the finance person for this. But if you want, I can go away and check what training's available and feed back to the next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great. Actually, I think.
And I know there is. Sorry, I know there is mandatory training available as well in certain areas for the schools. So I'll get that logged for you.
I think it was just as a consequence of lessons learnt, really, in regard to that particular incident. You know.
For sure, yeah.
Just seeking that reassurance for you. Thanks, Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nick, did you want to add any more to that? Nick, did you want to add any more to that training issue?
No, sorry, Chair, I haven't got anything else to add to that.
Okay. Councillor Mike White.
Yes, thank you, Chair. In regards to the spending in school, obviously the heads have got to have some sort of dispensation where they, you know, if they need an item that's required urgently, and you know they need to get it in, you know, they can't sort of try to convene a governing body meeting and ask for requests to just have that perhaps a few £100 spend or things like that. So, but we, the governing body, would then have a report of anything like that, and we would ensure that best value was put in place as well. In regards to the issue following the audit, I can assure you that I have, when audit's been carried out in the school I'm on, I have signed a questionnaire and sent it back, and obviously I've also recorded the recommendations. But of course that does come to the governing body as well. And now the recent audit has been carried out, I will make sure that I'll speak to Clark and make sure that that item will be on the agenda for our next governing body meeting. But that should be the automatic process.
Okay. Are there any further questions? I've just got one, Nick, or maybe Kelly can answer it. It's on page 7, paragraph 110. It talks about the school support team hadn't received confirmation that the audit report had been presented to the governing body. Is there a reason why that had happened or not happened?
Yeah, Chair, obviously we requested that, or I requested that at the time of writing the report. Sometimes we do get that confirmation back, but at this point, you know, obviously writing the report, we hadn't had confirmation. Now, whether that's due to the school holidays, it's a possibility, but you know, we are on the case, and we will get confirmation that those have been presented to the governing body. So as it slipped off the radar, it's certainly something that we're going to follow up to make sure that that's been done.
Okay, Kelly, have you got any comment on that as to are there any delays in receiving confirmation?
Yeah, I think there can potentially be some delays sometimes with the minutes coming in from the schools. So the school support team, I know, do chase up to make sure they get a copy of all the minutes of the governing body meetings. As Nick said, it could just be the timing on these ones that we haven't had a chance to chase them up, but I can certainly follow that up as well if you want with the team and
Okay.
make sure we've had those four in.
Okay, that's fine. If there are no more questions, then can I thank you, Nick, for presenting this comprehensive report. I think it is a positive report, and there are some positive messages through the report. There's a couple of areas for improvement which we've discussed, but overall, and I think I'm encouraged that this BroCom new system you've referred to, Kelly, is coming in, that will initiate tighter controls around procurement. So hopefully in the future we'll see less non-conformance or non-compliance with the procurement rules and regs.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for undertaking that work and for presenting and contributing today. If we can move on then to agenda item 5, which again is UNIC, Internal Audit Monitoring Report Q1.
Yeah, me again, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair, me again. So yeah, second report to present today, Chair, is agenda item number 5, which is our Q1 monitoring report. This shows the audits finalised and any other work undertaken by the team in Q1, which is the 1st of April to the 30th of June. The report is for discussion, and as usual, happy to answer any questions or queries at the end.
Nick,
So
before you, Nick, can I stop you? Before you go through the report, can I just let the committee members know that within the paragraph 2, 9 and 10, there are 2 moderate reports. I'm going to ask permission from the committee for those to questions for those to be deferred, because there are no officers present to take any questions for those moderate reports. So for the next meeting, the officers will be present and we will have the detail of the reports. So any questions that you may have against paragraphs 2, 9, 2, 10, referring to the moderate reports, if you can hold back any questions for the next meeting, please. Okay, so if the committee is happy for that to happen, can I have any hands up to support that? Because lovely, I got some hands up on screen. Thank you very much. Okay then, sorry, interrupt that, Nick. Hang on a sec, I got Mike Lewis. No, that was a hand up, Mike, sorry.
Yes,
sorry, Nick, carry on.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to sort of lightly touch on that, but yeah, that's fine. And thanks for bringing that up. So yeah, if members can turn to page 20 in the reports pack. And paragraph 2, so 18 audits are finalised during the quarter. The audits finalised are listed in Appendix 1, which also shows the level of assurance awarded at the end of the audit and the number of recommendations made and agreed. And Appendix 2 then provides a summary of the scope of those reviews during the period. As always, we break down those 18 audits into assurance levels, and you can see in the table below that 7 are high assurance, 9 a substantial assurance, and 2 a moderate level of assurance. Moving on to 2.3, a total of 129 recommendations were made for those 18 reports, and nice to hear that management have agreed to implement all of them, which is 100%. 2.4, so those 129 recommendations again have been broken down into risk levels, and you can see that 2 were classed as high risk, 27 medium risk, 86 low risk, and 14 good practice. Moving down to 2.7, so just an update on the plan as at the 30th of June 25. So approximately 38% of the plan and the activities included had either been completed or were in progress, which is a good start to the year. 2.8, the chair has just updated committee, so I won't go into that any further because we've got officers coming in October to comment on these 2 reports. Moving down to section 3, so additional work undertaken by the team. So Simon has sourced a number of training resources for the team, particularly in relation to the new global standards, and he's made these available to staff, and the team now are making good progress going through those training modules to get fully up to speed with the new standards, so that's good. 3.3, all staff appraisals within audit and the corporate fraud team have now been completed, which is a good exercise to complete and discuss with the team. Section 4, so follow-ups with a moderate assurance level. There was one followed up, which is rechargeable works, and again, good to report to committee that has now been completed. The final outstanding high risk recommendation was for write-offs has been done. Section 5, so here we're looking at high and substantial assurance level, so a standard follow-up process which we undertake. So during the quarter we had 13 audits where the managers came back to confirm that the recommendations were fully implemented, and you can see then a breakdown of those risks. There's 83 in total, and we've got confirmation and we've retained is the 18 audits finalised. You can see there's 4 there from the previous audit plan, which we finalised at the start of this financial year. Appendix 2 is the summary of the scope of those audits. Appendix 3 is the plan as at the 30th of June 25. And Appendix 4 then is the follow-up results for those 13 audits and a list of those of the recommendations which have been implemented. Thank you, Chair. Again, happy to answer any questions or queries.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Any questions from those online? Can I go to Dave first, then Swan, please?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Nick. Very positive report, I must say. It's good to see the content here, and particularly in regard to the team. And I'm picking up such things, messages in the report. I mean, I won't go in particular section, but the fact there's only been 5 days of sickness, the positive message of staff training, staff induction, and completion of appraisals both within the audit team and the fraud team as well. So really excellent, good news on all that really. And obviously the fact on outturn, there's 38% of the audits have been completed in this quarter. So again, another positive message. So can I just thank you, both you and to Simon as well in regard to that. And just as a backdrop, it'd be good to see both for you and Simon and the team really that this kicks on now in regard to the development of the team and yourselves as individuals. So thanks very much for that, Simon. Nick, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Julie.
I just say thanks, Dave, and hopefully further improvement now in Q2 as we push through the years. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Dave. Julie.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to echo what Dave has just said, and especially the addition of the new staff resources is very welcome, as is the good health and well-being of all staff during the quarter. Would you be able to outline what is being done or what can be done to promote and maintain staff well-being in terms of workforce sustainability in what I think we all recognise is a challenging role?
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, so yeah, as reported in 3.3, we've just completed everyone's appraisal, which was I found was a really good exercise, to get the staff thoughts on their current job situation, what support they may need going forward, further training, for instance. So we've done the appraisals. We have regular training meetings with the team to discuss any work or concerns that or improvements that we can implement into our daily procedures or our audit programs going forward. There's lots of mentoring and support available from senior staff in the team. And we have comprehensive procedure notes to help staff in their day-to-day roles. And finally, probably something that I like to do is, certainly when we receive a positive quality control questionnaire back from the client, I always pass them on to staff so they can see the comments made by the service manager, you know, on how well they've undertaken the audit. So there's lots of things that we've got in place. And, you know, as I said, from the appraisals, certainly the new members of staff have slotted in nicely and you know, they're up and running and working well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from members? No, none online. I would also like to echo the positive picture that's painted here, Nick. It's light at the end of the tunnel at long last, because you had a torrid time last year with difficulties with staff. And I'm really thrilled to see that Simon has sourced some professional training modules to develop the staff in the up and coming requirements for the global internal auditing standards. It's all, you know, significantly better picture than it was this time last year. Obviously, the reports will be referred to in 2.9 and 2.10 will come back next meeting. And if I can ask you, Jeremy, to make sure they're on the action plan, so that they do come back. And in addition to that, I just want to mention to members, I've picked up for 4 reports shown in Appendix 2, some queries I need to probe a bit further with officers involved. And after I will take that out to the meeting, because the officers are not necessarily available for me to speak to prior to today. But if there's anything I need to report back in, I will do that at the same time as the reports 2.9 and 2.10 come back next month. So I hope you bear with me and you're content with the action I've agreed to take regarding the 4 reports there. And I assure you, I will bring anything back that needs to be brought back. If there are no other questions or comments, I'd like to move on, please, to agenda item 6, which is the fraud function annual report 24-25. Is Jonathan going to take this, Nick, or you?
Yeah, sure. That'll be Jonathan. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, Jonathan. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
And we look forward to hearing what you've been doing in the last 12 months through your report.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. I present the corporate fraud annual report for 24-25 and the plan for 25-26. They're agenda items 6 and 7. Numbers 42 to 86 in your bundle. I think it's probably best if I do them together, unless anybody wants me to do it different. I'll go through the report for 24-25 first, and I'll pick out some of the salient points as I see them in the report. In terms of our caseload through the year, there was a 10% increase in our caseload through the year. I got no real concerns with that. We've absorbed that quite straightforward. Have we got enough work? Are we looking for work? No, we're not looking for work. But are we turning down work? No, we're not turning down work. So the referrals we're getting in and the investigations we're doing, we've absorbed that, and as business as usual. So that is, I don't see any issues at all with that. In terms of the areas of outcomes, it was pleasing to see the fact that we've raised the total actual overpayments within the year from £206,000 to £417,000, as identified in Table 3. That's mainly down to an increase in overpayments from benefit cases, which increased from £206,000 to £393,000. And then there was other things that we were doing as well. The number of properties we recovered back into housing stock increased from 7 to 10. There was over £30,000 of overpayments realised in council tax cases we got involved with. We did our first blue badge prosecution ever last year. And there's also, we got involved in a grant case which realised a saving of £13,000. Table 3 also shows we've introduced notional outcome overpayments as identified by the NFI exercise. We followed that as information set by the Cabinet Office and approved by all the different relevant bodies in the land, including, most importantly, Welsh Audit. That shows the instances where no money can be recovered from our work, and that's shown a notional overpayment of £761,000, showing that the total outcomes for the year are over £1.1 million. In terms of other areas, we've started the National Fraud Initiative, so we're progressing that at the moment. Within the National Fraud Initiative, there's 12,000 single persons discount matches. We will not be undertaking those matches because our council tax section already uses a third-party private company who look at SBD fraud for them. And last year, that exercise realised £111,000 savings in the council tax section. However, we are getting involved in cases, in benefit cases, where our Revs benefit section are not satisfied with the answers coming back from that exercise and refer the matters on to us to ensure and give assurance that they are looked fully. Employee investigations, there were 13 employee investigations last year. 10 were concluded with one person resulting in dismissal and 3 cases remain ongoing. And interagency work, there was a reduction in the number of requests we had from third parties, DPA requests, which have gone from 996 down to 819. Why that happens, I don't know, but that's easily being absorbed. So in regards to the plan is just to stabilise where we were, where we're going. We've started getting into a lot of areas like Blue Badge, like housing, like grants, and the number of cases we're getting in those areas is increasing. The work is increasing in those areas. So I was conscious that committee last year concerned that we may be biting off too much than we could deal with. So the plan at the moment is just to stabilise and just to continue what we're doing and improve what we're doing. In terms of last year's plan, all the 7 items were fully achieved, and the plan will remain exactly the same this year, barring one thing, which was a request from somebody on audit committee, but I can't remember who it was, that we publicise our web pages better, showing the work that we're actually doing to make more of an impact. That has not been done as yet, as I was waiting to come to audit committee today to provide to show the report to make sure before that was done before you had wind of the report. So I'm happy to take.
I've got David smiling here because he was the one
It
that
was
asked.
David. It was David. I couldn't remember. Sorry, David. Please forgive me. So
it's okay, Jonathan. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
But it will be done, David. I just wanted to wait until audit committee had sight of this report before making it public. I thought that was only fair. So I'll take any questions now.
Okay, then. Thank you, Jonathan. If we can take the agenda item 6 first, which is the annual report for questions. If we can do that first. Leslie Walton.
Yeah, actually, it's just really a comment. It seems really good that the sort of positive progress of the department. So in a way, I'm covering both items because both from what you've achieved in the last year, it's very positive. And also, I'm very pleased that you're able now to do more proactive as well as reactive work. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walton.
Absolutely agree with that, Councillor Walton. Any other questions? Julie?
Oh, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Jonathan, for this comprehensive report and for all the work that that your team does. Just one question in terms of the NFI outcome methodologies.
Yeah.
In respect of Table 3, you've claimed in Table 3 704,700, and you say that 10 properties have been recovered, but using the NFI methodologies, they say that you are able to claim a notional rate of 78,300. So I was wondering if you could explain why there's a difference between the amount you've claimed and the NFI methodology.
Nothing gets past you at all, is it, Julie? As I was saying it, I was going, No, we didn't have that property back in time. It isn't 10. It should have been 9. I should be saying 9, not 10. I put 10 in the report. It should be 9. It's
All right, thank you.
It's as simple as that. We had a property there, but we didn't get the keys back in time to put it in last year's figures, so it'll go in next year's figures. So, but
Excellent.
nothing gets past you, does it?
Thank you.
That's what we're here to do, Jonathan. David.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'll try and be brief. A couple of things, really. I mean, you mentioned the external website, and I'll link that to the fact that in your report you mentioned that there's been an increase in referrals from external sources, i.e. the general public. So I think it's quite succinct if you could, again, I'm linking both reports, really. So I'm not jumping from one to the other, but the work you're going to be doing this year, the plan, obviously, around that external website, I think just gives that positive feedback to the public, not just about individual cases, but equally about what you're gaining, not just in financial terms, as well, in regard to your function as a department. So it just raises the awareness in that way.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to ask you in the first report, as the chair mentioned, these savings you're making, because we had substantial savings last year, we got more substantial savings this year. I know you mentioned about stabilising and improving, which is good to see. But on that improvement note, I would promote the case for more resources into your department, because, if you would do an invest and save perspective here, you're just going to maximise things even more, really, and gain even more, which again just raises the profile of the department and the excellent work you're doing, both internally and externally. So I just wondered your opinion on that, really, and obviously, it does beg the question that you do need that, really. Thank you.
Probably not for me to comment, but at the end of the day, this team is completely funded by Ben Smith and Finance. It's funded theoretically. The only thing that comes under finance is benefit investigations, and yet we seem to be doing lots of things which don't come under finance. So I would never go to Ben and ask him for more resources. It's as simple as that. That's my opinion.
I do want to put you on the spot in that sense, but I think there is a case here for looking at that, really. And again, I'm just airing that in regard to the committee and the fact this is the second year running. It just begs the question, really, about doing that. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if Les or Ben. Oh, Ben is there, is he? Ben, do you want to comment on that?
Deathly silence.
No. Yes.
Just to say thank you, David. We'll take that away and I will flag it
Oh,
with Ben.
right, thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Les.
Thanks for that.
Councillor Mike White.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, John, once again, for all the sterling work you're doing. You mentioned, obviously, you've managed to get 3 properties back into a housing stock there. Do you know if this is a similar sort of occurrence as happens with our neighbouring authorities, where they get issues like this, where obviously the properties are perhaps sublet, or is it just unique to us, John?
I'd be honest with you, Councillor White, I don't know. I know Neath Talbot don't have social housing, don't have their own council housing, so it wouldn't be Neath Talbot. I don't know as far as what. Most of the teams I come across, fraud teams in Wales, I think it's only Cardiff and maybe Powys that deal with housing fraud. They're dealt with internally by their housing teams. So the answer is I don't know. Most of the stuff I'm sort of I come across is seeing a lot of the English authorities who do have a lot more serious issues with subletting, because they got the right to buy applications, which does increase the fraudulent activity in those areas, particularly around the areas of London. Just because the impact in London and the south seems to be a lot bigger than it is with us, doesn't mean it isn't going on, and doesn't mean we won't get involved with housing officers who come to us and say, look, we could do with your help, we're worried about this property, please come and help us. So that's generally what my staff are doing at this moment. But in return, guards of these surrounding areas, I have no idea what's happening in the other areas, because my counterparts in those areas, even though they'll have a corporate fraud officer, their functions may be completely different to what we have in Swansea.
Okay, thanks, John.
Okay, are there any other questions on this paper? I've just got one question, Jonathan. That's in relation to paragraph 3.6, and it's something David has already referred to about the online public reporting tool, considering to receive a high volume of reports. Have you got any numbers
No.
of
You last year when we did a review of what data we were putting on a spreadsheet to collect, and I had collected this information since 2015, and last year we decided to take that off. So it's just my gut feeling of things that are coming in. Everything I seem to be having a lot more which is coming in rather than from internal. It is coming in through the web reporting tools. It's just a gut feeling I have. I don't have figures.
okay.
I'm not collecting that data this year again.
Okay.
I could start collecting it again, but then it's not going to give you any real answers till the year after. And then I don't know what the impact is going to be the year after. So,
Okay.
but it's just a gut feeling of what I'm seeing all the time. I can see, wow, there seems to be a lot more increase in stuff coming from the public. We had a spike. I'd never felt it was used that much until we had COVID, and there seemed to be a spike. Then there was a big lull in it again, but all of a sudden a lot of stuff is coming through from the public via the online reporting too.
Okay, okay, that's fine, thank you. And the other thing, just a point of clarification really, on paragraph 310, you talk about in total the team realised overpayments and savings.
Yeah.
Are those overpayments or are they inappropriate claims? If you're
Well,
not sure, please come back to me. I don't want to put you on the spot.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Sorry, Chair. We don't have inappropriate claims. Well, we wouldn't in regards to welfare claims. We wouldn't have inappropriate claims for welfare. They'd be stopped, so we would never be involved. So that's the question. So all the overpayments that you see in the actual overpayments, these are cases where. And these are cases where we were involved and raised an actual overpayment, because we would not get involved with something. I wouldn't record anything if we got involved with a welfare case or a benefit case where there was no overpayment in the first place.
Okay, so as far as you're aware, it is a true overpayment.
Yeah,
that's been made.
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, perhaps I can come back to you to chat that through at a
By all
different
means
point
do
in
so.
time.
By all means do so, because I'm worried I'm not getting the question fully from you, Chair.
Okay, but we'll chat about that further.
Not understanding your question properly.
Okay. I don't think I've got any more questions on agenda item 7. Are there any more questions?
I have, sorry.
Sorry.
It's Jeff. Yeah,
Sorry, Jeff, I can't see on the screen.
That's okay. Yeah, what you just asked, I must admit, a very interesting point, actually. I was thinking about, overpayments. Are the overpayments due to staff error?
No.
Or are they?
No.
No.
This is all fraud, isn't it? This is fraud. There's no error. There's no staffing error. We've paid a benefit claim in error, because again, if we have referred a case where we can clearly see that there's been an error made by our staff in processing a claim, we wouldn't get involved. We would just turn around and say that's your problem. You deal with it. We only deal with it where we believe there's actual fraud.
Right. Good. Thanks for that.
Are there any more questions on agenda item 6 or agenda item 7 then? No, I'm not seeing anything around the room. Oh, Julie, another question.
Yeah, sorry, thanks, Chair. In agenda item 7, you mentioned that you prioritise assisting departments with employee-related investigations. Could you outline how you allocate the resources to these investigations and what impact you think it will have on your existing plan? And then I can come back with the second question, if that's okay.
The majority of our work will always be benefit cases. That's what we were set up to do. That's what we do. And then we deal with fraud cases on behalf of the Chief Auditor. So that's what we set up to do. I will allocate all the benefit fraud cases to the staff. and they will deal with them. Where possible, they will get involved with housing fraud cases in addition, because there's a big crossover between welfare benefit investigations and housing investigations. In terms of staff investigations, the amount of staff investigations is relatively small. They will come to me first off, and I will deal with those investigations. If it is decided that I need assistance from the staff, I will bring the staff in to help me at a later date. But at this moment, I solely deal with staff investigations.
Okay, and what is the impact on your plan? I presume because there are small numbers, it's not going to be a big impact.
It wouldn't be an impact on me, because at this moment, I deal with the blue badge and all the blue badge stuff and the staff. I just deal with that as I see fit, and I get the staff in to help me if I need be. So I don't see it may end up I may need resources from my staff, and I need more assistance from my staff, which may delay other cases. But at this moment, it's nothing I don't think we can absorb.
Okay, thank you. And before I ask my second question, did Ben want to come in on that?
Ben, would you like to come in? No?
I'll come in at the end, Chair.
Okay, thank you. My second question is in terms of the anti-fraud assessment checklist, question 20. Given that internal audit is consistent reporting on compliance with procurement rules and guidance, can you give this committee an update on your development of proactive work in respect of procurement, please?
Can I come back to you on that, Julie, because that's something I can't answer at this moment in time.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine, Jonathan. There's no problem with that. Ben.
Thank you, Chair. So mine was just wanting to make a couple of general comments in terms of thanking Johnny for his report, and again, Audit Committee's wide interest in this one. It's often an emotive subject. It does tend to draw some interest of the press, etc. Again, the levels are reasonable and proportionate given the size of the authority and the range of it, but I'm pleased that the team continues to have a significant impact, as the committee has acknowledged. But it's also, just to draw your attention, you'll be probably aware, Chair, and if not soon, we are having an upcoming Audit Wales follow-up review of counter-fraud arrangements in Swansea. It follows on from national ones, so it's particularly apposite and pleasing that it's come this time in this cycle, and that the committee has explored its interest in it. It tends to be one of the larger items that the local media does get a little bit more interested in, and understandably so. So the timing could not be more perfect. So I just wanted to place on my thanks on record to the committee and to Johnny. And I think it will set us in relatively good stead, again, in terms of evidencing the stuff that the Auditor General staff is about to review in Swansea. So I thought I'd just mention that for wider awareness, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for doing that, Ben, because I've already been contacted by the Auditor General's team with a provisional appointment to meet with me. So, but I would also personally like to thank Jonathan and his team for the excellent work that's ongoing. The successes are reported in the report, and they speak for themselves. I wouldn't want to add any more to that, but continue with the good work, Jonathan, and please convey our thanks to the team and also to yourself.
I will, Chair. Thanks very much, and to all the councillors.
Julie, is that a hand that's from prior?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, if we can move on now to the Corporate Risk Overview Report, which is agenda item 8. And for this report, the committee is asked to note the status of the council's strategic risks and issues at the end of Q1 25-26. And I think it's Richard is going to present this report for us.
Yes, that's
Welcome,
right, Chair.
Richard.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. So the report, it starts on page 87. It provides the status of the council's strategic risks and issues as of 30th of June, so it's Q1. Paragraphs 4 to 8 describes how the risks and issues are identified, how they're assessed and managed to support the delivery of the corporate objectives. Paragraphs 9 and 10 provide a summary of the status of strategic risks and issues as of Q1. So there were 19 strategic risks and 8 strategic issues. In paragraph 12, we have the introduction of effectiveness scores. So they've been introduced for control measures during the first quarter. They're there to provide a judgment on how effective the control measures are in terms of helping to reduce residual risk. So that is a work in progress. So further guidance is going to be developed in order to ensure that we have consistency in their use going forward. The chart in paragraph 13 that summarises the strategic risks. So all of them were reviewed in the first quarter, and we have 19 strategic risks, and 7 are red and 12 are amber. The risk scores, they remained relatively stable overall in the first quarter. We saw 3 risks with an increase and 2 with a reduction in residual risk, with the reasons cited in paragraphs 14 and 15 respectively. The chart then in paragraph 16 summarises the strategic issues. Again, they were all reviewed in the quarter. 1 new strategic risk was identified, which is around increased project costs within education. The summary of that and the details around that are set out in paragraph 17. Of the 8 strategic issues, 4 were red and 4 were amber. During the quarter, we had 1 strategic issue which saw an increase and another which saw a decrease in the issue scores, and the details on that are set out in paragraph 18. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Richard. Very comprehensive, very detailed report.
The responsible officer in terms of the risk 048, the first risk on our pack, which is workforce sustainability and capability. The control measures appear to be at least a medium-term solution. I understand, especially from later reports in the pack from Audit Wales, that there are currently issues in terms of social services, staffing and recruitment. So my question is, I couldn't find any issues. So how are the issues being managed, please?
Thank you, Julie. So there are workforce challenges in different pockets of the organisation, including social services. So within the operational risks and issues register, you will see service-specific recruitment challenges and how they're being managed. But across the board, the organisation is taking both immediate actions to address any immediate workforce challenges, where that might be around running a recruitment campaign or looking to increase our number of apprenticeships in the short term, or trainees. And then the strategic risk that we've highlighted here is about the sort of strategic response to the council, as you say, over the more medium term, which really helps us as an organisation to shape our strategy around succession planning, management development, learning and development, etc. So you won't see it necessarily here because it's being dealt with as an operational issue by the head of service, but I can assure you, working very closely with the workforce team and the recruitment team to make sure that we're doing anything we need to in the short term to tackle any immediate workforce challenges that in social services or anywhere else in the council are facing.
Thank you.
If I could add to that as well, I've been speaking to Ness and colleagues around having more exposure of those operational registers when we receive the directives from those various services, so we get more of an insight, because this is a strategic picture that we see at the meetings currently, and the main reason I want to have the directors to the table is to get a better feel of those operational risks and how they're managing those risks and challenges. But that's work in progress at the moment. We've yet to finalise which way that's going to work. I think is right, Ness, isn't it?
That's right, because it's about making sure that we don't overwhelm the committee with too much information as well, because you can imagine there are a significant number of operational risks and issues across the whole organisation, and you don't have the time or resource to necessarily get into all of those, which you may take us into sort of the 100 level of number.
I think we
So
spoke,
that being proportionate.
we spoke about the top 10 risks, couldn't they? The highest risks. So just to get a flavour of what those may be, because the risks that are being managed below the sort of 15, we're not as interested in those as the ones in the 25s. Any other questions, Paxton?
Madam Chairman, you recall, I think, at the meeting before last, I raised a point about contingency action. Obviously, when you're looking at risk, basically at the moment, what we're trying to do in the council is identify a risk and try and ensure that we don't get to that risk. What I meant in terms of contingency action is, do we have any measures, do we put any measures in place ahead of the risk arising if that happens to be the case? So if the controlling of the risk doesn't work and you hit the actual problem, do we have any contingent action to back up then to try and ameliorate that situation?
I guess there's a couple of things which we're doing now that we weren't in our previous risk register. So one is setting a target score. So we now not just saying this is what the score of the risk is as it stands today, and then saying, and if we take these following measures, we think we can get it down to a much lower score. We're actually also saying, what do we think our target ought to be? What's the level of risk we're prepared as an organisation to accept? And having that target means that as the risk may change because of external circumstances, we can see it changing as early as possible. Whereas we might not, because if we didn't have the target, we might not be so focused on, oh, look, this is starting to get, where this risk is starting to get away from us. So we can review our control actions and we can say, are we doing enough? Do we need to do more? Separately then, if a risk becomes an issue, if it actually materialises, it moves onto our issues register. And then the review again is to say, right, well, now it actually has happened. We've had a number of control measures in place. They may not be enough. So what do we need to do now? We add control measures then to tackle that issue until either that issue is completely resolved or it's resolved to the point that it becomes a risk again rather than an issue.
Basically, the action is taken to get rid of the risk once that risk has arisen. That's when you identify what needs to be done.
Sorry, Chair, I don't think those of us online can hear what's happening
Sorry.
in the room.
Apologies, my mic was on, I wasn't on. So what I was saying was, if we have a risk, which is we're saying we know that we're carrying a risk that if X happens, then there will be a negative consequence on the council. We want to reduce that risk, so we're going to take a number of actions to reduce that risk. If something externally means that actually, even though we've done all of those things, the risk is increasing, and an example I was giving was, say our financial position, say we got a worse than expected settlement, for example, and that wouldn't be because we hadn't done anything that we should have done. That's an external factor. That might then tip us into an issue where we, for example, can't balance the budget. Then we'd have to start taking additional measures to try and address that issue. So we are trying to, one, minimise the risk, but two, if it then materialises, have measures in place to tackle that issue should it arise. Is that clear?
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. David.
I think, I'm not sure if it's Richard or yourself, Ness, but I'll ask the question. Thanks, Chair. Just in regard to paragraph 12, it mentions about the introduction of the effectiveness scores. And obviously these are qualitative judgments. And I just wondered, well, a couple of things really. Who measures these scores? You know, what level are we getting these measured? And how do we remove the bias towards a subjective view? Thank you.
Thanks. So the risk owner, in consultation with the responsible officer, will be the two people that discuss and decide what that effectiveness score should be. So, and it's in relation to the specific control measure. So some measures may be less effective on their own at tackling the risk, but if you package them all together, the set of actions is sufficiently robust to manage the risk. So you could see a spread of measures having some medium, some strong.
Right.
Even a measure that has a weak assessment doesn't mean it's not a worthy measure. It just means of itself, on its own, it isn't going to do the job of mitigating that risk. In terms of moderating, if you like, across the different risks, that's the discussion which we're going to have at Strategic Governance Group next week, and say what additional advice and guidance do we need to provide to try and ensure that we get that moderation right.
So the judgment isn't down to an individual, it's down
to two individuals in discussion.
So it removes the bias. Yeah, okay.
And also we review the risk register, the Strategic Risk and Issues Register at CMT once a month. And in so doing, we can see those scores. And if we as a group think actually that effectiveness score looks a bit high or a bit low, we can discuss that in that forum too.
Thanks, Ness. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Can I just pick up one or two? On the workforce sustainability and capability gaps risk on page 93, between March and April, there's a significant increase in the number, 9 to 16. Is there anything that we need to be aware of for that, Ness?
Did a significant piece of work to understand that risk has existed for quite a long time on the strategic.
We can't hear again.
Apologies. That risk has existed on the register for quite some time, and we did an analysis at the end of March 2025 to say, actually look at the organisation as a whole, and we were seeing more challenges within more services, and therefore we increased the risk to recognise as a whole organisation we're facing a challenge around age demographics, for example, and also some gaps in some sort of professional services too.
It's just nice to have an understanding of where those big hikes or changes occurred. And just a couple of other things, if you could perhaps comment on, but if not, if you could just look at them at a point in time. One is on safeguarding on page 99, I think it is. I just, in the controls, I'm not seeing any reference to dolls, and I understood there was some possible backlogs with dolls. I just wondered what the position was with that one. As I say now, so I'm not expecting you to be able to answer some of these, but perhaps Richard, you can pick them up. And similarly, on page 127, I don't know whether it's a typo, Richard, but you've got a date of 2033. That seems a long time to expect completion in regards to risk and issues, I think it is, and education. No, sustainable communities for learning. So I don't know if it's a typo, Richard, or whether it is 2033. No?
Chair, if I could come in and give some guidance, it's unlikely to be a typo. The Sustainable Communities for Learning is a 9-year programme from Welsh Government and should therefore run till 2033. So I think it's referencing the whole 9-year life cycle.
Thank you for that, Ben. Appreciate that. I think, yes.
Just to add to that, so absolutely Ben's right, it's relating to the whole length of the programme, but we have also discussed in CMT the appropriateness of ensuring we are recognising how we're managing those risks on an annual basis.
Okay.
So it may be that next quarter you'll see that control measures date has been brought forward.
Okay. And the final one for me is the on page 139, and it relates to the National Community Care Information System, and the current supplier leaves the market in 2026. Do we know when they're leaving in 26? Because the score remains low at 6. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm not sure at the exact date, but the reason why the score has come down is because the plans that have been put in place to replace that system are well embedded now, and so the risk of us having a problem at the sort of changeover is much reduced.
Oh, that's excellent news, because that was a big issue, isn't it? Councillor Paxton, over there.
Yeah, this is the third system now you've had within about 2 years, isn't it? In terms of computer systems.
Thank you, so.
This is specifically in relation to social care and the system that they use with the NHS as well. So that system is actually, it's currently called, it's the WICIS system, which has been in place for a number of years now. And so it'll be a replacement of that. So it's separate to Oracle, Fusion, etc. It's a completely different system.
But the WIC system is being replaced?
The the WICIS system is being replaced, yes, with a new system.
Because that replaced the previous system about 2 or 3 years ago. And you had another change come in now. And basically, I think it's ensure that health and yourselves are talking a lot, or we are talking along on the same platform, isn't it?
Yes, so it's an integrated system between the NHS and ourselves. That's right.
We do get concerned that with these changes systems on a fairly regular basis, where we look and data always, and we're not always getting the data that we need because of these changes. So if you could impress a bit on West Government to try and avoid as many.
There's a report from Audit Wales around the flow of people out of hospital, and obviously there's a joint approach here on the recommendation. So am I right in assuming that this new system now, the backdrop is that report, and that will actually address a lot of the communication issues around that, which has been mentioned in that? I don't want to preempt it, but it was one of my questions in the next, I've seen it's been brought up. Thank you.
Should we park that one for the next agenda?
Yeah, okay. I'll bring it back. Yeah, okay.
So if there are no more questions on that paper, no. Thank you, Ness. Thank you, Richard, for that. As I say, it's something that we need to keep a keen eye on, because obviously the fundamental part of the governance and audit committee is to look closely at risk and how the council are managing those risks. The next item on the agenda, I believe, is agenda item 9, unless Jeremy corrects me otherwise. This report, before I ask for someone to speak us, talk us through it, we received this report in June 2025, and I think it was Councillor Leslie Walton expressed some concern because there were no officers present at that meeting, and I'm glad it's come back as we requested, and I understand you're going to take us through it.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Have I pressed the right button?
Yeah,
I have. Great, because I've done that before and made a mistake. So hi everybody, I'm Kelly Gillings. I am the Director of Transformation for West Glamorgan. So my post is in place, I suppose, to support the Regional Partnership Board, which obviously has an integrated role between Swansea Council, Neath Torba Council and the Health Board as well. So yes, I wasn't present in the June meeting, unfortunately I was on annual leave, but I know Audit Wales, I think it was Beth, then came to present to yourselves. So I'll summarise the report and then answer any questions if I can, if that's okay.
But what we were looking for is what the council's response is to how they're progressing with the recommendations made within this report.
That's fine.
And are there any issues or concerns that we need to be made aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely update you on all that. So shall I jump straight to that then? Shall I just jump straight to the recommendations? Okay. So the response to the recommendations were actually written by the partnership, which included Swansea Council. So the items that they recommended were quality of information, weekend discharges, training and guidance, and so on. So for each one of those, I'll just update you a little bit on where we got to with those things. So the quality of information that we were receiving in terms of our pathway of care delays in particular was not live. It was delayed data that we would get maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, which meant that you weren't able to react to situations you were finding on the ground. So you had social care staff, health staff not able to respond to things because they didn't know how many people were accumulated in a hospital bed effectively. What we now have is what's called the Signal system. So it actually sits on the health board infrastructure. Signal wasn't particularly brought in for pathways of care, but it connects a lot of other systems within the health board. And our staff, and I say our staff, Swansea Council staff, Neath Harbour staff and health board staff all access that one integrated system. What that's given us is the ability, real live, even now I can tell you how many people are in a hospital bed every hour it's updated. So all the staff know exactly what's going on, where people are delayed, and the latest reason for the delay for the individual as well. What that's enabled us to do is drive down the figures from where we were. And in this report, it's a little bit out of date because the report was the year before we had a bigger problem. If you went back to around Christmas time last year, we were running about 280 people actually in a hospital bed and who were ready for discharge. We're now on average, and the last 4 or 5 months, we were about 180 people. So we've actually made improvements of 100 people being stuck in a hospital bed in the last 6 months or so. There is more work to do. We are now looking at the development of the pathways and how we can make sure we've got enough capacity to reach the demand that we're getting, both in a social care and a health context. I think some of the report was a bit outdated in terms of where it was saying things like there wasn't enough access to social care assessments. It wasn't just social care assessments. It was some health assessments as well around our occupational therapists and our that sort of support that people need to be able back into the home. So that's the system. So obviously you just mentioned the WICIS system. Moving on to Mosaic, which is the new version of Swansea Council, and Rio is the same platform. Signal is separate to all of that, but that doesn't mean to say we can't connect them, which will allow us to see a person's journey, I suppose, from start to finish. Whereas right now today, we can't see it all the way through. You'd have to pull data out of different systems to see the journey. But that is a goal that we'd like to get to, where we have that integrated record. And I think we're probably getting closer to that. Now the health boards are going to be on a similar system, or at least on the same platform as Swansea Council, and Neath Harbour have already migrated to Mosaic as well, which is obviously of benefit to the region and to the health board because we'll all be on similar systems. So one of the other things that the recommendations that were made was that our weekend discharges we needed to expand, so their weekend discharges were improved. We, as part of Signal, there's something called a clinical, oh goodness, it's where consultants enter information that enables the people who work on a weekend to discharge during the weekend. So consultants will say, if Mr. Jones's blood test comes back at X, then they can be discharged. So it doesn't, so the medical conditions or the medical responses don't prevent the discharge from happening, assuming everything's already set up in the community. There is still some more work to do around that. It's not 100% efficient. We know that that is still contributing to the delays we have got in the system, but there is a whole team of people sitting now in the regional partnership board working on all of that, and we are doing that together. So in relation to that, you might have heard of something called a 6 Goals programme that came out of the NHS executive. That programme was sort of separate to the regional partnership board. It was done within the health board management infrastructure. What we've done as part of all of this is merge both infrastructures. So the regional partnership board's infrastructure to support communities and older persons and the 6 Goals programme now sits under one governance structure. And that is chaired by Dave Howes, who is obviously the Director of Social Services in Swansea, and is chaired by the Director of Primary Care for the Health Board, which is Craig Wilson. So you can see the integrations happening in a much more cohesive fashion. The next recommendation then was around training and guidance. So we had some standard operating procedures. Some things are given to us nationally. So if mental health care assessments are done nationally, there's a particular procedure we have to follow, but we can make improvements with our own internal processes on those things, and we have. So we've been working on that. We've been working on the process by which a referral will be received by social work or social care in order to make the speed at which we are enabling a discharge to happen in a more efficient manner. So what we've done, we've created more standard operating procedures, and everybody in the wards, social care staff, everybody's contributed, and we've adopted them. We've worked on something called, and so the next recommendation, actually a trusted assessor model. The model's been agreed for our flow within the hospital environment into the community. What we've now got to do is get the IT system to enable us to do that in a more efficient manner than paper passing, rather than have it on bits of documents of paper or different systems. It needs to be in one place. There is a go live around the end of October for that as well. So we do have some dates. We are looking at other models as well around trusted assessor, where care homes and domiciliary care providers accept the assessments that the social care or health board will do. We're working in a pilot in one of the care homes at the moment. It's proven to be quite successful, but that there is some challenges for us, I suppose, with the wider market, because obviously it's private business. It's difficult for us to tell them how to run their business, and they have to trust us in that. So it can be challenging. There is one I've missed off. We have actually, and at the next board, be signing off a reluctant discharge policy. What we were finding is that people were entering hospital but didn't actually know what would happen to them during their journey, that they would get discharged when they were well. They wouldn't just be in a hospital bed for a very long time. So we've done some communications, I suppose, with people. When they arrive at hospital, they know what to expect and they know what's going to happen to them or their loved ones if they're a carer. So I've already talked about the governance. So that one of the things they suggested is we have a portfolio of board members, and that we were able to condense the governance that was around it. That it wasn't Swansea Council reporting in one way, Neath Tarbert reporting another way, and Health Board reporting another way. We do it under all one umbrella, which we have done. It's still got some teething issues because it's still challenging bringing pieces of work together, but under Dave's leadership and Craig's leadership, we are getting there, but there is some work to do. And then the last bit is about the risk oversight. Well, having it in a regional space means that we do get oversight as a regional board, and there is a whole risk management programme around this programme. There are risks that are managed by different work streams, and there's an overarching risk for the whole programme. So rather than things sitting on the Health Board risk register, it's now sitting on the Partnerships risk register, where it's applicable and it's an integrated service. Obviously, we can't take on risks that are purely clinical that we wouldn't be able to manage in the partnership space. So there's a number of things that we've done over the last couple of months implementing all of this. So obviously, we have been working with the leadership and governance in order to put this in place, and that's been really successful. Welsh Government have actually asked us to present on how we've managed that in our region on Monday. So I'm going to present on how our leadership and governance has changed, and we've worked together in order to improve the situation for our service users. We've enhanced all the data collection, so with pinpoint accuracy now I can see who's in a hospital bed and waiting. That's got very senior oversight as well. So Deb Lewis, who is the Chief Operating Officer for the Health Board, reviews that every Wednesday. So if we're calling the top 10 of your long stay patients, so some people end up staying in a hospital bed for far too long, Deb has oversight of that, and she can make call-ins on all of us in order to improve that situation where legislation allows. So there are some legislative issues with that. If you've got a court of protection or you're waiting for a judgment from a judge, then obviously there's some changes we can't make. And some of the other things we've done then, so we've all got standard principles by which we work to now. We thought we had them in place, but obviously COVID and various things put things awry. So we've just dusted all that off and brought it back and made it work better. We are looking at the various pathways we've got and checking that they are fit for purpose, that we have the right capacity to meet the demand that's coming today. So there's a big evaluation going on of all our integrated services at the moment, for which we've had a Section 33 in place since about 2014. So it's good timing to have a review now, considering the challenges we faced last winter. So I think the final thing for me is to say that we're already done the winter planning. So there's a self-assessment out this year from Welsh Government we've had to complete. It's out at the moment to the Communities Know the Persons Board for sign-off. It's been to Health Board Management Board. That's generally done, so that will be submitted back to Welsh Government on the 16th of September. There's an operational plan that we now have to submit by the middle of October. I'm not confirming the date, middle of October, I think it's the 14th of October, which tells a story about how we're going to manage our increase in demand between the beginning of December and the end of January. So lots of work has gone on since this report landed. And when the report did come out from Audit Wales, it wasn't a shock to anybody in the system because it came to us in the April and we'd already started to make the improvements in the January. So we were able quickly to put the management response together and able to respond and have done. So our pathway of care delays right now, as I was in there just now, I think it's at 194. Right now, we're at midnight. Last night it was at 180. So this is because people are getting ready to be discharged now towards the end of the day. So by tonight, that should have stabilised back to around the 180 figure, which is where we seem to have plateaued over the last couple of months, but we still making improvements.
That's quite remarkable, actually. That's quite remarkable what you've done then. That's really reassuring in the efforts, particularly the fact you've got the partners working together, because that's always been a challenge throughout your and my career, you know, within NHS world, because partners tend to become tribal now and again, but that's really, really encouraging that you've managed to achieve that, so well done. Are there any questions from any members? Councillor Walton, are you happy to hear all those good news messages?
Yes, Chair. I mean, that was much more helpful than if we'd looked at it at our previous meeting. So thank you for coming along and giving us an incredibly extensive and in-depth talk on this. And it does sound like things are going in the right direction. So thanks again.
Yeah. Be quite nice to hear how that's progressing, perhaps in 6 months' time after the winter, to see how successful your efforts would be. So maybe we can bring something back in March. I take your advice on that.
Yeah,
March,
we
April?
absolutely could do. The timetable that I set to respond to those management actions was actually March of next year. So it'll be timely because I'll probably be reassessing and we will have gone through winter. So I will have learnt more lessons through the winter period. And when I say I mean the partnership will have learnt more lessons and I'll probably be able to give you more information.
Because I wouldn't want to incur any additional work for you, but so if you're doing something around that time, if you could perhaps come back to the committee just to share the good news, hopefully. Yes, does that sound all right?
Yes, Chair. I was just thinking April may be better to give you the opportunity to get to year end, deal with all of that and come back to the committee in April.
Yeah. You put that in the plan for me, please. Paxton.
Just to say, Madam Chairman, I guess it's not just this committee that's going to be looking at these figures. I'm sure scrutiny will be as well.
Yeah. David?
Just thanks, Chair, and just to echo, obviously, about the partnership working, which is obviously the underpinning achievements around this. Having been in a Section 33 post in the past, I realise the importance of that. So I do welcome to see that Section 33 is still live and kicking, which is great news, really, from a partnership perspective. Just a couple of things, really. I mean, you've answered a lot of the queries I had, but just you mentioned about the integrated system that coming in. Is there a time frame of when that expected to be completed?
So as I understand it, the timetable for the implementation of Mosaic and Rio is dependent on the data migration of the existing systems. I know you had some concerns I heard about how you'd have the trends, I guess, or the previous years, but the data migration should take care of that, I would hope. And if not, we'd obviously store the information somewhere so we could have that. I believe the latest timetable is around March for that implementation. But I don't sit on the local programme boards for that. So I would have to double check, but I believe it's March. I can double check and let you know if that would be helpful.
Lovely, thank you. And then the other one was about the trusted assessor role you mentioned. And am I right in thinking that the trusted assessor role will have a bearing on what is an issue here in Swansea around the waiting times for a social care assessment?
Absolutely should. So the trusted assessor model idea is that it doesn't matter who you are in the health and social care space. If you've done the assessment, that will get trusted by your colleagues and partners across the space. Obviously, there are legislative things that have to be done by a social worker or have to be done by a medic that you can't do in a trusted space, but a lot of it can be. And that's the bit we're trying to work on. So if it can be done in a trusted environment or with trust built into it so that you don't have to redo something that somebody else has done, that is definitely going to diminish the time things take in order to discharge somebody at the hospital.
I think from an operational perspective, that's going to have a major impact if that's signed up to by the organisations and professional groups as well, obviously, not just the organisation. And I think the other thing, just looking at the report and the response, it'd be really handy. I'm not saying now, but maybe when you come back in the spring or whatever, is to have some sort of flow chart about accountability and reporting, about decision making from, the regional partnership board down and how it works. That would be quite useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks very much. Excellent report. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Kelly. Right. Sorry, Jeff, I've kept you waiting. Councillor Jeff Jones.
No, that's okay. Yeah, absolutely. It shows how out of date this report actually is, absolutely marvellous work. I know this is been a thorn in the side of perhaps the local authority and on the health board, really, with regard to and the people in hospital waiting to be discharged. But, actually taking this forward, there are going to be, shall we say, winners and losers. The health authority may benefit from getting people into hospital and getting out of hospital, and perhaps losers with the local authority with regards to accommodating those people and encompassing perhaps additional costs. How will we actually? I know that the chair actually said about there used to be perhaps different parts would be tribal and so on. But what about the cost sharing of these changes? Has that actually been taken into account, and how are we actually managing that now?
Ellie?
Yes, absolutely. So there are 4 principal aims for the partnership under this banner of work, and one of them is to reduce our burden on long-term managed care. So one of the things that you're doing is if you're not delaying somebody coming out of hospital, they're not decompensating as much as they would be if they were sitting in a hospital bed for 2 to 3 weeks. So what that's doing is enabling us to get people out of hospital with less care than they would have if they'd have been stuck in a hospital bed. So that's offsetting at the moment. We're not seeing any particular rises in costs, although I will have to check with Dave because it's not something I've looked into in particular, but that is the aim of the programme. Is to maintain independence as much as we can and reduce long-term managed care. So if you take the ethos that we are discharging people more quickly now, which we definitely are as part of this piece of work, then they're receiving less care because they haven't been the muscles degenerate after so many days and things in bed. Well, all of that is obviously an improvement. And then the reablement pathway for so whether we got bedded reablement in Bonamine House or in our reablement within the community, we are finding that people's long-term care packages are not as significant as they would be if they hadn't have had that reablement. So one of the things we're working on with Health Board is some of the beds within the Health Board side, which also act as a sort of what we call a managed bed reablement, and how they manage those beds is also going to help us to make sure that we can maintain the costs around managed care. I don't think we're ever going to get to a point where they'd actually be reduced, but if we can maintain where we are by putting in these interventions, then that's probably the closest we're going to get, because our population is increasing and our demand is increasing for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Mike Lewis. Oh, sorry, Mike White.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, first of all, I'd like to obviously say I'm very, very glad that we've obviously got over the problem with the issue regarding discharges of patients on the weekend, because clearly this was totally unacceptable, because if a doctor had gone off shift, ever seen that patient, they couldn't do nothing until that doctor come back into work, plus the next 48 hours. So with a system where another practitioner can, as long as they can agree that the diagnosis and the for the patients is accurate and they're happy with it, and they can be discharged. That's good news moving forward. In regards now to obviously monitoring what you're doing and to sort of keep how things are progressing, will you be putting in key performance indicators in the areas that you have had the main concerns with? And how often would you then be monitoring to make sure that they are on track? And finally, and it's like also pleasing as well to sort of see that we've, as the chair said, the tribal sort of attitude, but you know, it's not you know, the situation where it's from them and us scenario, and that everybody's working as one.
Yeah, so in terms of performance indicators, yes, absolutely. There's a whole work stream that sits underneath the Communities and Older Persons Programme, which actually for my sins, I'm chairing at the moment. I'm about to step away from it, but one of those. So there's two different strands. One is about the financial performance of the Section 33 or the integrated services, and the other part is about how the individual services are working themselves to meet the demands of the system. So there are a number of national measures that we are part of, which is our pathway of care delays, which we have to do on a monthly basis. What we'd like to get to the point of is having a dashboard where we know, maybe on a weekly, maybe on a bi-weekly, how different services are behaving and responding to the demands they're getting. That should give us more intelligence about where we need to put our resources going forwards. So we do have some of that already, and our Swansea Council in particular has a lot of information around this area of work that goes to your PF and I meetings, and that is going to form the basis, I think, of the regional version of that, which will include health board information and Neath Orbit information as well. So there's a lot of work going on in this space, and in terms of the leadership, I suppose we've had some new representation from the health board actually appointed into the health board. It was about this time last year that Marie Davis, who was the exec director of partnerships and planning, came into post, and Deb Lewis became the coup, and things have changed dramatically since then. Them coming into post has actually enabled us to work in a much closer partnership. There was a lot of interim posts and things in the health board as well, which was more challenging for us to work with. But we have lots of colleagues in all of the levels who work really well together. We have some great integrated teams, and it's just great to see that we're back on track, I suppose, as to where we were maybe before COVID or even during COVID, because we did a lot of good work together then as well. So it is excellent. But yeah, performance information is all going to start flowing. There's a big piece of work to bring it all together because we're all in different systems at the moment, but we are getting there.
Councillor Leslie Walter.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just an observation that I'm guessing that getting people discharged as efficiently and as effectively isn't just a practical solution. I'm guessing that it's also helpful to the patients, not just their physical health, but also their mental health. And if their mental health is better because they're able to get home or wherever, then I suspect that also helps with their physical condition, whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay. Gordon.
Can I just expand a little bit on the microphone? Where does it fit in terms of the medical decision that the person is able to be discharged? And the point that Mike White made, if there are no doctors around, can a trusted assessor discharge a patient?
So it's slightly different models. So a trusted assessment for us would be to assessed for the things that you might need when you go back into the community. So if you have an individual who needed a rail put up in their home or something, there's in the hospital sites, there are OTs and physios around the hospital all day, every day, working with individuals. What used to happen was you'd have an OT or physio from the community going in and doing another assessment when you've got somebody who sees them all the time. So it's that trusted part that they were unable to tell us what's needed when people get home. In terms of the medical intervention, there would be lead consultants for every individual, and this is how I understand it, lead consultants for every individual who might not be working a weekend, but they could leave a list of things that if this patient has XYZ results come back or whatever, then a junior medical officer could make that decision, or a nurse could make that decision based on the information the consultant has left. It's not working in all cases, but it's a work in progress. So some wards seem to do it better than others at the moment.
David?
Just pick up on, thanks, Chair. Just to pick it up on Gordon's point, I suppose allied to this, and talking about medical staff, is that, and I'm not sure what the current position is in the health board, but obviously in the last few years we've had the advanced nurse practitioner role, developed. Does that have an impact on what Gordon's point is?
I really wouldn't know. I have
Okay.
to be honest. I can find out,
That'd
but
be handy to
genuinely, I
know, yeah.
wouldn't know.
'Cause
Yeah,
they, by mere fact of being an advanced nurse practitioner, they have that power to make that sort of decision that Paul's talking about.
and they definitely do in the community. I can only speak
Yes,
for
yeah,
myself.
yeah.
I see an advanced practitioner when I go to my GPs, you know,
Yeah.
rather than see a GP themselves. But on hospital side, I'm not sure.
Okay, be
I
worth
will ask the
finding out,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask the question.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. It's just in my experience, consultants are not the most cooperative people.
I'm sure they're very cooperative, Gordon, under the new partnership arrangements.
Genuinely, we have we tend to work with nurses, OTs and physios much more because they are the ones who work on the discharge. I let the health board sort out the medical part of it, if that makes sense. The medical part is done to the point of discharge. If somebody's then what we call clinically optimized, so they are well enough to go home, that's when all of my work kicks in. It's at that point. So I know bits and pieces about it, but I can't profess to know the whole system.
I think it's in everyone's interest that the patient outcome is the best outcome. And I think if, you know, it's encouraging the partners are wanting to work together to ensure that those outcomes are the best that they could be, with them all working as one team. So, and I'm sure that's in everybody's interest. So the consultants will certainly be happy to do that, I'm pretty sure. Okay, then. I really appreciate you coming today. It's been very reassuring for members of the Governance and Audit Committee, because it was a report that we were all, I think, quite concerned to read, you know, both from the local authority side and generally from our stakeholders, our sort of public. So I look forward to seeing you again in the spring, and hopefully those positive messages will even be better. Thank you very much, Kelly. Audit Committee tracker and the work plan are all for information. If there are no particular burning questions or comments on those, the Audit Worlds tracker I can see is being updated. Thank you, Richard, for this. And quite clearly, things are progressing with regards to the action against those recommendations. And I'm pleased to see the link between the risks within those reports and the tracker and the corporate risk and the operational risk registers, which are referred to in paragraph 17. David, you want?
Yeah, just a query, Chair. Just in regard, obviously, to the last item in regard to this work, will that start to appear on that tracker in regard to the?
Is that agenda item 13?
No, item 9. You know, the urgent and the Audit Wales report.
Yes.
For that'll appear.
It is on there, I think.
It is. Oh, sorry.
I think it is
Sorry.
on there. Yeah, in respect to the council's actions. Yeah, I'm sure I've seen it on there. So unless there's anything on the Governance and Audit Committee tracker or the Governance and Audit Committee work plan, can we now go to agenda item 13, which is an exclusion of the public? Jeremy, can I hand over to you?
Yeah, if we can have somebody could pass the motion to the public be exempted from the meeting. All in favour? Okay, thank you very much. I shall stop the recording now. Thank you.